Okay, this is 1.6, number 14. I did a little bit of drawing on this because it took me a while to kind of figure out how I was going to do this. Didn't want to waste all your time. So first of all, we have this function y equals 2 sine of 2x plus pi over 3. So again, we want to figure out the period. So the period is whatever is going to be in front of this. So we got a 2 here, so we got to get the 2 out. So the way we can get the 2 out is by multiplying the top and bottom here by 2. So that gives me 2 pi over 6. And then I can factor 2 out of both these terms. That leaves me with x plus 6. So I got 2 sine of 2x plus 6. So this is going to be my b. My period is going to be 2 pi over b, or 2 pi over 2, which is pi. Now each of my increments is going to be a fourth of that, so it's going to be pi over 4. And I'm going to have 4 of those to make my period, and that's how I'm going to get my subintervals, my 4 subintervals. Now, the problem is we have a shift over here of negative, shifting over pi over 6. So how are we going to get our equal 4 subintervals out of this? Well, if we look at 4 and 6, the least common denominator is 12, so I'm going to have to use pi over 12 as a scale, my intervals. All right? Now the amplitude is just going to be the range. In this case, it's just 2. There's no shift, so that's going to be the range. The domain is all real numbers, so I think that's what they wanted a second, was the domain. Right? So the domain was all real numbers. Okay, so I can put that over here. B, the domain is negative infinity to infinity. And C, the range, there's no shift, so it's just going to be the amplitude, which would be negative 2 to positive 2, so that's no problem. Now we got a graph, and now this is where it gets to be tricky. Because if we look at the period, this is, so I put these increments, and they're kind of small, but basically what this is pi over 12, 2 pi over 12, which is pi over 6, 3 pi over 12, this is pi over 4, 4 pi over 12, this is pi over 3, 5 pi over 12, and 6 pi over 12, which is pi over 2. And the same thing in the opposite direction. So normally, if my period was pi, I'd start over here. Actually, I'd start over here, and I would go up 1, down 1, and the same thing, back 1 and up 1. So it would look like this. But it's shifted over pi to the 6, which is 2 of these, because these are pi over 12. So I'm going to shift it over. So I'm just going to move each of these. So this would be my 1 point here. And then it's going to be every 4. I'm sorry, every 3. Because it's going to be pi over 4. And these are 12, so that's going to be 3 pi, see. So that's going to be my pi over 4, so 3 of those. So I'll start here, and then I'm going to go 1, 2, 3. There'll be another one. And then 1, 2, 3, there's another one. Then 1, 2, 3, there's another one. And then 1, 2, 3, there's the other one. So there's the shift. All right? So normally this would be my 0 point, so now this is going to be shifted over. So this is my 0, and this would be my 1, or actually 2 now, because it's amplitude 2, and back to 0. And then this is going to be my negative 2 over here, and back to 0, and that's going to give you 1 period. Now I didn't measure these out with a ruler this time, so they should be a little more symmetrical. Right there, up there, and down there. So that's what we've got. Okay, so let's take a look at this on the calculator and see how this looks. It was a little bit easier because we didn't have a shift, but the intervals are really hard to deal with there because of the subdivision. So what I'll do is I'll put this guy on. Let's go over here, clear that one, and we have, there's no shift, so we'll just put 2 sine parentheses, and then we have 2x plus pi over 3. So 2x plus parentheses, and then our window. So it'll look pretty much like this. We'll make our window, although hopefully it did that, negative 2 pi over 3 minimum, negative 2 pi divided by 3. Oops. Yeah, you got to be careful with these fractions. Sometimes you have to have a parentheses around here, so I'm just going to put that in just to play it safe. Parentheses, negative parentheses, 2 pi, parentheses divided by 3. And then I'm going to go to pi over 3. And I'll make my scale pi over 12. And over here, I just can go from negative 3 to positive 3. That should be okay. Scale 1, let's graph this. And you can see that's what we've got. And there's one period right there. Okay, and you know my scale was a little bit different than this, so I could have spread that out a little bit, but that's what we got. So that covers one period, and that was right to my limits. I didn't actually go out as far as we have on the graph. Okay, so I hope that makes sense. So because of the odd shift, the pi over 6, you just have to use the common denominator to figure out your subintervals if you're going to graph it by hand. And you should be able to graph these by hand as well as the calculator. I hope that helps.